Guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv arabim. On page 151, as you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me also? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. And we continue with the watchword of our faith, the Shema. Yisrael, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated, but not you guys. You stay up. For V'ahavta, who remembers it? V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha u'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavcha Hayom al levavecha, vishinanta levanecha, vidibarta bam, v'shiftecha b'veitecha, uvlechtecha b'derech, uvshochbecha uvkumecha, ukshartam lehot al yadecha, v'hayu latotafot b'neinecha, Uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha lemahan tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim, lihyot lachem le'Elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem. And you can all be seated. Ma'ot Tzor, which you will find back in that back of your prayer book, is considered the most popular Hanukkah song that we have. The Ma'ot Tzor tune, which is now considered traditionally Jewish, is actually the adaptation of a German folk song. It was so popular a melody in its day that indeed Luther used it for a German choral hymn for his church as well. It was composed by Mordecai Zunz, the words of Ma'ot Tzor, and his name is an acrostic in every first verse of Ma'ot Tzor, which is kind of fun to look for. Since not a lot of Americans knew the Hebrew, Rock of Ages was translated for us in 1903, and it remains the song of redemption in every age. We have, as Jews, asked for redemption and asked for salvation. And so Micha Mocha, which is our prayer for being saved, will be followed by Ma'ot Tzor on page 669. Mocha, Ha'eli Ma'adonai, Micha Mocha, Nedar B'HaKodesh, Norah Tehilot, Al Sefer Ma'otzor Yeshuati, Lechana El Shabeach, Tikon Beit Tefilati, V'sham Toda Nizabeach, Lietakom Matbeach, Matzar Hamizbeach, Azegmor Bashir Mizmor, Chanukah Hamizbeach, Azegmor Bashir Mizmor, Chanukah Hamizbeach. Rock of Ages, let our song praise your saving power. You amidst the raging foes were our sheltering tower. Furious they assailed us, but your arm availed us, and your word broke their sword when our own strength failed us, and your word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. Children of the Maccabees, whether free or fettered, wake the echoes of the songs where you may be scattered. Yours the message cheering that the time is nearing, which will see all people free, tyrants disappearing, which will see all people free, tyrants disappearing. That's it. Is there more? So we are told that it is not a prayer service in Judaism if we do not have a prayer for peace, and not to worry, because the next song on page 669 is not by might. This phrase is taken from the book of Zechariah. It is the Haftarah that we read on the Shabbat of Hanukkah. Zechariah is one of the post-exilic books of the prophets, and he's talking to the people after they were able to return to the Holy Land after exile and rebuild their temple. For various reasons, they were held up, and the prophet Zechariah says, do not be frightened, be sure to continue to reconstruct the temple. But it's not just a building that we're talking about, he said. What is important is for us to build back our faith around the values of Judaism. Indeed, the earliest of our prophets believed that the Messianic age didn't require some Messiah, but rather when this new temple is built, all peoples will be unified under the idea of one God, and that's when the lion would lie down with the lamb and there would be peace for all. That's what they thought. So in chapter 4, Zechariah has this strange vision, and it's this giant 7-branched golden menorah, and it didn't have light bulbs, and it didn't have oil that people had to light. In fact, it had a giant urn of oil that came from God and perpetually kept it burning. And that was Zechariah's idea that someday God is going to build us into a nation of peace and joy. And that's why he said, don't think you're going to do this on your own. It's going to be with God's help that we will be free people. So Debbie Friedman comes along in the 1970s, a perfect time when we all believed in peace and love and rock and roll and things like that. Her vision was a little bit different, and yet with the very same words she said, we need something bigger than just us. We need to find a way to make peace, and that will only come with our spiritual sustenance and our help. Not by might, from the ancient prophet Zechariah, and with the lyrics and the composition of Debbie Friedman. by spirit alone, shall we all live in peace. Not by might and not by power, but by spirit alone, shall we all live in peace. Children sing, children dream, and their tears may fall, but we'll hear them all, and another song will rise, another song will rise, another song will rise, not by might and not by power, but by children alone shall we all live in peace. Not by might and not by power, but by spirit alone shall we all live in peace. Keep the chords. Children dream, and their tears may fall, but we'll hear them fall, and another song will rise, another song will rise, another song will rise, not by might and not by spirit, but by spirit alone shall we all live in peace. Not by might and not by power, by spirit alone shall we all live in peace. Not by might, not by power, and we continue now with our opportunity for our Misha Berach prayer, a prayer for healing, I hope. Prayer, speaking of Debbie Friedman, that a prayer we know, which asks for healing for the individuals in our midst who need to have the power and the ruach, the spirit of our additional hopes for wholeness and for contentment and for peace. We think not only of those who are ill or in the hospital, but those who are battling addictions or who have demons of their own or mental issues or anything that they could just use a little bit of our community's support. If we would like to mention any names for whom we dedicate this prayer, this is our opportunity to send those names out. Jude Cohen. For them all and for all the names that we carry in our hearts, we offer these words, blessings, strength, wholeness, shalom. Bless the source of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. One of my very first memories, and I know because it was even before I moved to Florida, I had to be 3 years old because we went to Florida when I was 4. And we had spaghetti the first night of Hanukkah. Now, I don't know why. The story has it, and my mom does watch this, so tomorrow she's going to tell me if the story is true. Makes no sense to me now. But the story was that electricity went out, and the only thing she could make was spaghetti. So, okay. So every year, and I made my kids have spaghetti with latkes on the first night of Hanukkah all that time. Now, what I began to wonder about is, well, how could she make spaghetti without electricity? Why was that possible? So, Mom, when you see this, you're going to have to explain something to me. But we still have spaghetti in my family the first night of Hanukkah. And the fact is that almost all the stories we know about Hanukkah may have some iffy factors to them. Now, I don't want this to be the Virginia, yes, Virginia, there is no service for all these young people. And yet, it's kind of interesting to learn that the origins that we learn for many of our traditions were not necessarily factual, but there might be a lot of truth to them anyways. So the main things that we do on Hanukkah, what are some customs for Hanukkah? What's a Hanukkah custom? Dreidels. What else? Latkes. And lighting the menorahs, the very 3 I wanted, and I didn't even tell them in advance. Let's talk a little bit about the dreidels, the latkes, and the candles, and each one has a song of its own. Just so the story is, the so-called story, the spaghetti story about the dreidels is that during the time when the Maccabee War was fighting, the Jews were not allowed to study Torah, and all the little children just couldn't not study Torah. They loved studying Torah so much. You already have some questions, don't you? And so what they would do is they would take out their books and they would learn, and if a Hasmonean or if a Syrian Greek was coming, they'd put the books away and pull out their little tops and would play as cover. So it was sort of political subversiveness on the side of the children. That's the story we learn about the dreidel. The fact is, however, the real top that became known as the dreidel started in Ireland or England and moved its way to Germany during the late Roman period. And men would gamble with a top that was known as a teetotum in bars and inns. And originally, the letters on the teetotum were the first letters of the Latin words for nothing, half, everything, and put in. In German, the teetotum evolved into the word trendel, and soon they had German letters instead. So when the Jews took up the German custom, they translated the German words to the Hebrew or Yiddish letters that were shin, shtetl ayin, put in, nun for nit or nittel, nothing, hey for halb, which was half, and what am I missing? And ganz for whole. So there we have the letters. And they would play this game as a mnemonic device to remember how it was to play the game. The word trendel moved to Yiddish and became dreidel, and indeed these letters were on it. When dreidels reached non-Yiddish speaking Jewish communities, Jews didn't understand what it was about. Some felt that the 4 letters might correspond to the 4 ancient nations that tried to destroy Israel: Babylonia, Persia, Greece, and the Roman Empire. Others noticed that if you add up the numbers of these letters, you get 358, the same word for the Hebrew word for Mashiach or Messiah. None of them explained why it was associated with Hanukkah until some person said, look, Nes Gadol Haya Sham, a great miracle happened there. And now it became associated with the great miracle of the Hanukkah story, and the story was created about the kids studying Torah. After the emergence of the Zionistic movement, the name on the dreidel stayed the same, but the dreidel stayed the same, but the name was changed to sivivon from the word saviv, around, because it went around and around and around, and the letters are changed in Israel to Nes Gadol Haya oh, a great miracle happened here. And now the letters make no sense in Israel because they don't tell you what to do. Nonetheless, Sivivon, a great story, a great song, and we are going to hear it on page, and it's on page 670 for those who want to turn around while they sing it. Just one, just Sivivon. So, Hanukkah hu chato, Hanukkah hu chato, Sivivon, so, Chag Simcha hu Nes Gadol Hayasham, Nes Gadol Hayasham, Chag Simcha hu La'am, Sivivon, so, Hanukkah hu Chag Tov, Hanukkah hu Chag Tov, Sivivon, so, Hanukkah hu La'am, Nes Gadol Hayasham, Nes Gadol Hayasham, Okay, latkes are next. Have a seat, my friends. The point of latkes, says Joe Nathan, the famous Jewish cookbook writer, has nothing to do with the potatoes or the onions, but rather the oil, reminding us of the story of the one night's worth of oil lasting for 8 days. Once again, questionable. Fake news, can I say that? Starting with the oil. There weren't a lot of oil trees in Eastern European lands from which the many Jews immigrated to the United States. In the old world, potatoes were fried with schmaltz. There are no chickens in the Hanukkah story. When the recipe came over here to the United States, Jews were faced with the most miraculous of creations of all, Crisco, which was marketed as the miracle for the Hebrew race that they've been waiting for 4,000 years. Now, why was it a miracle? Because it was considered parve. If you had a latke fried in chicken oil, you couldn't eat it with dairy. So all you sour cream people, it proves that applesauce goes with latkes. When shortening fell from favor, it was replaced with olive oil, allowing Hebrew school teachers and rabbis across the country to connect potato pancakes, which you can get at the Pancake House any time of the year, with the Hanukkah story because of the oil story. Let's not also forget that potatoes arrived in Europe only in the 16th century, and they were not cultivated in Eastern Europe for another 200 years. By the early 19th century, though, they were a staple crop because they were cheap and were very abundant. And so the shredding and frying them with schmaltz is what made the potato latke that we love so much into our holiday treat. But when the art of cooking came out, it explained in 1958 that these were the pancakes, we were told, which the wives of the soldiers of the ancient hero Judah Maccabee hurriedly cooked for their men behind the lines. So potato pancakes in schmaltz in Israel, they were not eating potato pancakes. So what was the latke before a potato pancake? We are told that it probably was something that was cooked in oil with buckwheat or rye. However, we know that another story has its roots in the Italian Jewish custom of frying up ricotta cheese in oil. And that is related to the story, the apocryphal book of Judith, which if you join us tomorrow on Zoom, you will get to read the book of Judith, which are made from cheese. The story of the book of Judith is that she seduced the general of the Assyrian Greek army, Holofernes, who came from the invading army by feeding him with wine and cheese-fried pancakes. And he got so drunk that he fell asleep, and she was able to seize his hair and bring his head back to the Israelite army, which made them free and saved the day. So it is that we have the story of our mixed cheese pancakes, and all of that is how we know about the latkes that we eat, which are not the latkes that any one of you are going to have. But Debbie Friedman, surprisingly enough, wrote a song about the potato pancake latke. It is not in our prayer book, so just listen to the story as we go through.
I have something stuff I cannot tell you. I'm sitting in the splendor turning brown. I think I took the onions and the flour, and the cook is scouting oil in town. I sit here wondering what will come of me. I can't be eaten looking as I do. I need someone to take me out and cook me, or I'll really end up in a royal stew.
I am a latke, I am a latke, and I am waiting for Hanukkah to come. I am a latke, I'm a latke, and I am waiting for Hanukkah to come.
Every holiday has suits are special. I'd like to have that same attention too. I do not want to spend my head in splendor, wondering what it is that I'm supposed to do. Matzah and choroses are from Pesach, chopped liver and challah for Shabbat. Linses on Shavuot are delicious, and gefilte fish no holidays without.
I am a latke, I'm a latke, and I am waiting for Hanukkah to come. I am a latke, I'm a latke, and I am waiting for Hanukkah to come.
And this is where we think for a moment. It's important that I have an understanding of what it is that I'm supposed to do. You see, there are so many who are homeless, with no jobs, no clothes, and very little food. It's important that we all remember that while we all have most of what we need, we must remember those who have so little. We must help them, we must be the ones to feed. I give it.
I am a latke, I am a latke, and I am waiting for Hanukkah to come. I am a latke, I'm a latke, and I am waiting for Hanukkah to come. I am a latke, I'm a latke, and I am waiting for Hanukkah to come. I am a latke, I'm a latke, and I am waiting for Hanukkah to come. And down. One more. Oh, do you know that there is no menorah Chanukiah in the Bible? The only menorah that we read about is a menorah like that, and if you look very closely, this was given to us by the Ura family, and they keep our lights burning because there always needed to be a seven-branched menorah lighting in the temple. The story goes in the book of Maccabees that the menorah was dragged off by the Assyrian Greeks and melted down. So what were they to do? The brave Maccabees, when they won the temple, put their spears in the ground and made one out of spears. Our rabbis did not like the idea that an implement of war would be that which we light for the Hanukkah menorah, so they created the story and told the story of the miracle of the little jar of oil that lit that menorah and which lasted for 8 days. Why 8 days? Because to rededicate a temple, you do it on Sukkot, and Sukkot is 8 days. And so we have the 8 days of Hanukkah, and we have a mock menorah, a Hanukkah, with some extra candles to remind us of the ocho candelicas, the 8 candles which we learned about. Ladino is a language that came from the Spanish-speaking Jewish people, and Flori Jagoda, who is a contemporary composer, wrote Sephardic music that her nonna told her and taught her when they lived in Bosnia. And so again, we don't have the lyrics, but the candles are counted. If you know a little Spanish, you might know the words of this song, because Ladino indeed took the numbers directly as we count the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 candles. Ocho candelicas. Candelicas, tres candelicas, cuatro candelicas, cinco candelicas, seis candelicas, siete candelicas, ocho candelicas para mí. All right, now watch me. Muchos fiestas volveré, con alegría y placer. Nice. Muchos fiestas. And so we learned that a lot of the stories that we learned from Sunday school in the days long ago may not, in fact, be exactly factual, and yet they have so much truth to them, just like electricity and spaghetti. The secular community will say, well, if they don't have facts, let's cast them aside and let's ignore all of it. The religious community doesn't do that. Because even though the details change and the songs change and the way we ask for these values changes every generation and every song that is written, indeed, we still teach our children the very eternal truths that of song and joy and freedom and survival, and family is part of their heritage, It gives them their roots, it gives them their wings, and no matter how you tell the story or celebrate it in your home, you are teaching them truth and you are giving them tools for their future that they will pass down from generation to generation. And that, indeed, is the true message of Hanukkah. And so we turn to our prayer book again and the Aleinu prayer, which speaks of the world that Zechariah prayed for, when we can all just be lots of different religions in this world and get along because we all believe in the same God and we all believe in sharing our planet with one another. And so if you will rise, and maybe Scott can open our ark for us if he can reach it. Even polytheists like peace. So with the polytheists, we say, not quite, Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liyotzeh breshit, shelo asanu kagoye haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, וגור עלינו ככל המונן, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו And we turn to our Kaddish prayer now, and we remember the famous World War II heroine Hannah Senesh, who said, Yesh kochavim sha'oram magia artza. There are stars above so far away that we only see their light long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with the people we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. We light our candles and we remember the luminaries, so many people who are so important to us in our congregation. We mark the yahrzeit of Jerome Shamovitz, Molly Levinson, Dr. Leon Rosenbaum Jr., Joseph Bettman, Ruth Hoffman, Hilda Jacobs, Dorothy Dicker, Bruce Holroyd, Ruth Rossett, Mary Frances Bauer, Lillian Skelly, Richard Flegel, Joan Summers, Barbara Shackelford, Alan Klein, Harriet Holstein. And am I right about Ron Goldberg this time of year? Your dad? He? What? A few weeks ago. Okay. Oh, well, let's remember him anyways. Let's remember Gary Zackham as well, because his family is here. And tell me, Kirtland, I'm so sorry to hear about your loss. Richard Kirtland. We add him to our list. We also mentioned Susan Davis, a member of our community who we lost. And I ask at this moment if there's any other names that we want to remember for this special Shabbat. We remember them, and there's so many who we remember and carry in our hearts. We say the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala uvizman kariv imru, amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbo Mivarach Leolamul Almei Almaya, Yit Barach V'yishtabach V'yitpoar V'yitroman V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, shemei d'kodesha berichu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom d'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the one who makes peace above, let peace shine down upon all of us, upon our lives, upon our community, upon Israel and all the world, as we say, amen. And we are seated. And finally, our last song, page 671, the famous folk song, Light One Candle, which was written by Peter, Paul, and Mary, became so important to remember. It was written in 1982, recorded in 1986, while the lyrics commemorate the War of National Liberation that we mark with Hanukkah in the book of Maccabees. Its first performance was in Carnegie Hall in 1982. It was written by Peter Yarrow, who was a pacifist, and he was talking about the 1982 Lebanon War. And he reflected in Light One Candle the idea of the loss and death, that justice and freedom means that we need to end war for all time. In 1983, when the trio performed the song in the outdoor concert in Jerusalem, the trio saw the thirst for peace and the ambivalence that Israel felt, and they wrote this final last verse that they added to it. What is the memory that's valued so highly? And it's that we keep the life aflame. And so our kids in the 1980s might think of 1980. Our kids now might think of 1980 as ancient history. Some of us remember it. And it may seem as far back to them as the time of the Maccabees. But all of it is a part of our story, and indeed they are our modern Maccabees who will bring these stories down through the generations, and we hope that they will keep singing these songs and bring us forward, that their light will continue as we go into the coming generations. Light One Candle, page 671. Candle for the Maccabee children, give thanks that their light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when their justice was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. Light one candle for wisdom to know when the peacemaker's time is at hand. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. A big thank you to Mary Rogers, director of our choir and director of our Makor choir, our new youth choir, with the help of Renee Paris and the accompaniment of Hava Gilbert and Aiden Kirtland. Did I do it wrong again? I got it right?
I'm just helping you. I thought I heard you hesitate.
I know, I was about to name the dog, so.
Everybody knows Ollie.
Ollie Kirtland. On the guitar, our wonderful Makor singers that we hope will be back to sing with us, our beautiful choir. Shabbat Shalom. Make sure that you are here on Sunday at noon. We are going to have a Hanukkah blowout like you won't believe, and do a tzedakah project also for Hannah's treasure chest, and make your own donuts and all kinds of good things going on. Yes, yes. So Shabbat Shalom. I couldn't get the funnel. I couldn't get the funnel pick, so we're quick.
We have to do it in a panoramic. Lucas is in all of them.
Okay. Yeah, so we bought donuts. Thank you.
We had,
I think you keep those or give them to Mary. Yeah. Be careful of these candles, everybody.
we had 3 streamers. I guess I was one of them.
You scream?
Streamers.
Oh.
He was using my phone to stream.
Sarah
Well, a lot of
Adams,
people watch it later.
Sarah Adams lives online. I asked her if there was any make
Usually the Taylors jump on, but a lot of people watch it after the hour, so. You never know. If you don't have your phone, they come up with names.
We went shopping and I bought girls' bras and underpants for everybody. Good one